Sharks have 8 senses to our 5: vision, smell, taste, hearing, and touch. That's where the similarity ends. Imagine being able to feel the tiny electric pulses made by your next meal, or being able to read the electromagnetic field of the Earth like a map, or a personal GPS. Now imagine being able to see heat, hear physical space, or taste color. Some animals can do this. Some people can too, at least that last one anyway. But what if some people out there can do much more? This video isn't about sharks. It's about superpowers and super senses. The animal kingdom is full of examples that living things are capable of so much more than the small slice of perception and ability that most of us experience every day. If you need proof, just ask the synesthetes, savants, ancient Greek Spartans, spiritual practitioners, and the residents of your local zoo. 50 years ago, CIA reports were written about children who could see and do things that others couldn't. 20 years after that, a woman did something that defied the laws of biological life as we know them. What other senses exist in the world that we just can't access? We used to believe we had only 5 senses, but what if we actually have dozens more? And what happened 50 years ago that had an entire society rethinking its belief that superheroes are only found in comic books? Join me as we unravel all this and much more and enter the Codex Legendarium. I'm Shelby Melanson. A lot of people think sharks are cool, myself included. Besides the fact that they're living dinosaurs, beautifully designed apex predators, the sports cars of the ocean, if you will, and the fact that, like, a ridiculous amount of millennials all wanted to be marine biologists. Yeah, I know. Sharks also have superpowers, though, or more accurately, super senses. The underside of a shark's snout is covered in pores, just like human skin. But the shark's pores are called ampullae of Lorenzini, and they're filled with a kind of jelly. Together, these tiny organs work like a network of electroreceptors and give the sharks their 6th and 7th senses, called electroreception and magnetoreception. Tell me that doesn't already sound like a superpower. These are the abilities to detect super small electrical pulses and electromagnetic fields. Every living thing generates electricity by way of its muscle contractions and even heartbeat. So this sense lets the shark detect electricity made by its next meal, even if its next meal is burrowed underneath the sand. A hammerhead's unusually shaped head works literally like a metal detector. On top of that, it lets the shark sense the Earth's magnetic field and use it like a map to follow migration patterns. As for that 8th sense, called distant touch, fluid-filled channels running along the shark's body allow it to feel pressure changes, vibrations, and even the smallest movements through the water from up to 650 feet away, letting them see even in the dark. But sharks are far from the end-all be-all of super-sensing animals. In fact, animals possess a lot of sensory abilities that human beings do not. Just like sharks, birds have magnetoreception too, and they use it to follow seasonal migration patterns, aka flying south for the winter. New research says that pigeons have electrical currents in their inner ears that give them the ability, whereas other birds have a special protein in their eyes called Cry4 that lets them actually see the Earth's magnetic field. How cool is that? That's according to new scientific research from 2 universities, one in Sweden and one in Germany. Tons of other animals can do this too, including but not limited to fish, amphibians, reptiles, rodents, cows, and even dogs. Likewise, platypuses have electroreception too, thanks to roughly 40,000 electroreceptors embedded on the skin of their bills, basically giving this air-breathing mammal precision underwater hunting powers even with its eyes, ears, and nostrils closed. Now, you probably learned in elementary school science class that bats and dolphins use echolocation to create real-time sonar maps of their environments with sound. Bottlenose dolphin research also suggests that they have electroreception too. And then there are the electric eels that can not only feel the electricity, but generate it with special muscle cells and 3 different electric organs that work like batteries and take up like 80% of their bodies. Not only to zap their prey and defend themselves, but that electricity also works as a kind of navigational echolocation. Some snakes, like pit vipers, boas, and pythons, can detect infrared radiation thanks to pit organs in their faces, giving them thermal imaging powers to create live heat maps of their environment and find dinner, even when it's burrowed into a mouse hole. Elephants can sense and create infrasound, ultra-low frequency rumbles, by stomping their feet. Those rumbles travel as subtle seismic waves through the ground and can be heard from 6 miles away, or in perfect conditions, up to 20. Humpback, blue, and baleen whales take that to the next level, with some research suggesting their ultra-low frequency whale songs can let them communicate from up to 1,000 miles away. Some extend that number up to 10,000 miles, believe it or not, although modern noise and vibrational pollution from boats cuts that distance range quite short now. Octopus and cuttlefish species can see polarized light, while mantis shrimp can see ultraviolet and much, much more than that. Check out this video for info. And all of that is just sensory function, not even including other physical superpowers. Dragonflies can fly in 8 directions without reorienting themselves, aka changing the direction their bodies face. And they can hit speeds of 35 miles per hour. If you scale that up to human size, that would basically be subsonic speed. Axolotls have insane regenerative healing abilities, and ants can lift more than 50 times their own weight. For comparison, that would be like me lifting a rhinoceros or this armored Mercedes above my head. Or even better, the dung beetle, which can pull 1,141 times its own weight, the equivalent of a person pulling 6 large buses filled with people. Or maybe this clip. But this isn't some far-off world of fantasy superheroes we're talking about. This is real life, which is a lot more supernatural than we realize, because what's natural to us is only a tiny slice of reality. Okay, I hear you. In the intro, I said this was about super senses, human ones. I promise, that wasn't clickbait. So where do those come in? Well, I'm glad you asked. For a long time, humans believed that we had 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, touch, and taste. But that has effectively been blown out of the water. Let's start simple. The abilities of our basic 5 senses are a lot less basic than many of us realize. For instance, some people can smell disease. It's called hereditary hyperosmia, and there are plenty of documented scientific studies proving it with illnesses like respiratory infection. There are also tons of anecdotes and stories of people who swear they can smell things like Parkinson's or even cancer. Not to mention more subtle cases, like men who, believe it or not, can smell different parts of a woman's reproductive cycle. Yeah, I know. Besides smell, some people have learned to create their own built-in sonar, just like the echolocating dolphins. This mostly appears in people with vision impairments, who can click their tongues or use canes to tap and interpret information about their surroundings from the echoing sound vibrations. Then there's the famed German composer Ludwig van Beethoven, who, contrary to popular belief, did have some hearing in his left ear until he became completely deaf in his way later years, but he was hearing impaired to the point that he relied extensively on his ability to feel subtle vibrations to compose his later masterpieces. And if you've ever been around a skilled musician before, you'll know that they can not only feel, but also hear things that the rest of us just don't notice. Okay, so what's beyond the standard 5 senses then? There are a range of estimates, with scientists now saying that humans have access to anywhere from 10 at the low end to more than 30 senses at the high end. This study from 2019 found compelling evidence that, just like sharks, humans actually do detect Earth's magnetic field, and that EEG data revealed that, quote, certain magnetic field rotations could trigger strong and reproducible brain responses. Other research into senses also classifies things like your sense of balance and orientation, knowing where your limbs are in space, even when you can't see them, your body's senses of time, pain, and temperature, and even one called interoception, or the awareness of your own organs. Think your heart racing or butterflies in your stomach. Personally, I think a lot of those could be summed up under the umbrella of the original 5, but I digress. But then, what happens when those 5 get their wires crossed?
We'll cross the streams.
Okay, jokes aside, this phenomena is wild. It's called synesthesia, and science defines it as when one of the body's senses is activated, another gets involuntarily activated in a similar way. There are a ton of different combinations of this, like sensing colors or shapes from certain sounds or music, being able to taste certain words or letters of the alphabet, seeing numbers or units of time as having certain arrangements in physical space. I have a friend who once told me that the number 2 looks yellow to her, among other things, and she's not alone. Estimates say anywhere from 1% to 4% of the population has some form of synesthesia. And when I first learned about this years ago, my first question was, well, if a certain number is blue for one person with this kind of synesthesia given, is that letter blue for everyone with this kind of synesthesia? And it turns out that, generally speaking, no. This is a pretty individualized thing, with different people experiencing different combinations, even with the same type of synesthesia. Still, I do wonder if it's just an interesting brain wiring thing, or if there really is more to the story, and if these people are seeing something more about our world than meets the eye. Who knows, but, and I quote, "Things are not always as they seem." If any of you watching this are synesthetes, I would love to hear about your experience. Even if synesthesia doesn't create the same effects across different people, this next one does. Ever hear someone with an exceptional kind of skill described as a savant? Well, it's more than just a phrase. The term comes from the Latin word meaning to be wise, and later the French word to know. Renamed to Savant syndrome from its earlier name in the 1860s, and later popularized by Dr. John Langdon Down, yes, as in the person who gave Down syndrome its name, in 1887. He described this syndrome as a paradox. When a person has an exceptional, almost unbelievable level of skill or intelligence in one area, but otherwise has an intellectual disability, often some kind of significant developmental disability or brain injury. There are all kinds of manifestations of this, from people who can perform complex mathematical calculations in seconds, to this artist from the UK who drew a perfect replica of Manhattan from memory after just a 20-minute helicopter ride. I know someone personally who can tell you what day of the week you were born on within just a few seconds of being told your birth date and year. It's amazing. And then, of course, there are the musical savants who, as young children, can somehow outperform someone who has been playing for decades. So, how does the human brain produce these extraordinary abilities in the first place? Let alone the fact that the brain is amazing, and we're constantly discovering new things that it can do that science previously brushed off as impossible. Are these abilities just being added to the brain via rewired connections in people with neurodivergence? Are the rest of us somehow suppressing or filtering out information that we otherwise could physically access? Or are those people that do have them bringing those skills with them as memories from before? If you ask me personally, and some of you did in previous comments, I think it's a bit of all three. We know that neuroplasticity is constantly changing the pathways in our brains, especially in the case of traumatic events. Plus, there is already extensive evidence to back up the reincarnation theory. Just ask the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies, which has documented a whopping 2,500 cases of kids that can recall specific details from previous lives. If you'd like to see a future episode on that, let me know, because I would love to do one. Back to super senses and superpowers. Humanity has been enamored with finding or creating Superman or Captain America basically forever. Go back to ancient Greece in Sparta, starting around the 7th century BC. That's where a brutal government-run military program called agoge was training up warriors. According to the philosopher Plutarch, male babies were put through a selection process in Sparta, and only those that appeared strong and healthy were chosen to become warriors. The rest, he claimed, were left to perish from exposure. When the boys reached 7 years old, they were admitted into training. They lived in barracks with their peers, separated from their family's influence, and put through rigorous physical conditioning to improve their endurance, instill combat skills, and absolute loyalty to their nation. The result? Some of history's most elite and dedicated warriors. Fast forward to today. That fascination has transformed into modern attempts to biologically enhance humans. More on that here. On the other hand, a different kind of training has been developing super skills for far, far longer. For thousands of years, meditators and spiritual practitioners have been honing unusual and extraordinary skills. Abilities like being able to raise and lower their body temperature, exercise extreme control over their heart rates and breathing, and withstanding extreme cold are just the beginning. Other accounts describe Buddhist monks who could levitate or transform matter from one form into another. Side note, that doesn't sound at all similar to, say, turning water into wine, now does it? Plus, other cases where advanced practitioners were said to be able to detect illnesses in the body without any tools. Not to mention things like mind reading, telepathy, clairvoyance, and predicting the future. And the thing is, it's not just the spiritually inclined who believe in this stuff. Scientists do too, and so do secret government programs. This is the section you clicked on this episode for. Thank you for sticking with me. 26 years ago, a peer-reviewed study published on PubMed described an experiment that defies everything science believes about biology. A woman focused her mind on a dish of wheat seeds that had been placed in a bowl of water. After 20 minutes of intense focus, the seeds miraculously sprouted, having begun to grow visible shoots and roots several centimeters long. The seeds in a separate dish of water, the control group, which she didn't focus on, looked exactly as they had 20 minutes earlier. Nothing happened. Researchers took that dish of the now sprouted seedlings and analyzed their DNA. Compared to the control group, the sprouted seeds had fundamentally been changed. Their genetics showed that the experiment had altered a gene tied to the speed that the plants normally take to germinate, meaning the experiment changed their DNA and sped up their natural timeline. The woman's name was Chulin Sun, a practitioner of a kind of spiritual meditation discipline known broadly in Asia as Qigong. The researchers on the study requested independent verification, and the exact same effect, was later documented more than 180 times via institutes across Japan, China, Malaysia, and Thailand. More than 20 years before that, an unusual report appeared in a Chinese state-run newspaper called Sichuan Daily in 1979. It described a young boy named Tang Yu, who had been walking home from school with his friend. The two boys were roughhousing, and when Tang bumped into his friend's pocket, he had a distinct vision of two Chinese characters. He told his friend, who, mystified, pulled out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket with the exact same two characters. Tang avoided telling his dad, who he assumed would just think he was lying or telling tall tales. Instead, he started playing a game with the local villagers. He'd have them write down messages on pieces of paper, ball them up, and hold the wadded up paper close to his ear. And without fail, he was able to correctly read the messages with his ear. As you can imagine, not long after, authorities got wind of these rumors and asked to examine the boy. They, too, confirmed his ability. Word spread, and within months, more and more reports were pouring out of China all about children who reportedly possessed extraordinary sensory, perceptual, or physical abilities. Now, full disclosure, this story comes from a real declassified CIA document that followed the studies done in China as a matter of, let's call it, national interest. The program in China was funded by the state, connected to the military, and tracked by our United States CIA. The research was called, quote, Extraordinary Functions of the Human Body. And I'm going to take a second to remind you here of humanity's fascination with super soldiers since forever. But I digress. Here's what the document describes about China's psychic children. Other children with similar skills started to come forward, allegedly able to decipher hidden messages, just like tongues balled up paper, quote, with their fingers, palms, scalps, abdomens, feet, armpits, and buttocks. One 9-year-old girl even claimed that she could read messages by touching the crumpled paper with the end of her pigtail. The kids ranged from 25 years old to just 4, though most of them were around 9 to 14. Other documented skills included, quote, telepathy, clairvoyance, X-ray vision, and psychokinesis, aka moving stuff with your mind. As you can imagine, word about this spread far and wide, and it attracted other researchers and lots of other test subjects. One of the most famous cases came from a boy named Zhang Bozhuang, later nicknamed Superman Zhang, who became a full-time test subject for a military research team. In one experiment, a sealed glass bottle with tablets inside was set down in front of him. As he stared at it, it began to shake violently, and the tablets inside were snapped in half. By the end of the experiment, every tablet somehow appeared outside the bottle, even though the seal on it was never broken. The experiment was filmed on a slow-motion camera, recording at 400 frames per second. And in one single frame, one tablet appeared to be passing through the glass, half inside and half outside. That footage was never explained. Other experiments of his involved him setting things on fire with his hands, among other things. Now, make of all this what you will. The CIA tracked this entire thing, including a full chronology of the events, which were extremely publicized in China at the time, and even attracted attention from American researchers. They also held several conferences to bring people in this field of study together. All the links about this are in the description, and if you'd like to read them, I would love to hear what you think. That said, China's program did eventually shut down, and there was criticism. State-run publications, for one, were first quick to denounce their findings after all of that, including Zhang's alleged abilities. Obviously, anytime there's a big uproar about some unbelievable phenomena, there are plenty of boys who come forward to cry wolf. But if you look at the greater picture throughout all of history, from the earliest ancient stories to modern scientific inquiries, there's just too much to brush off without a second look. And maybe an open mind. Animals can do all kinds of things and sense all kinds of things that we can't. And those are only the ones that we know about, because we have tools and instruments that can detect those things, like electromagnetic fields and infrasound. What if there are creatures out there that can detect forces that we don't even know exist, because we have no tools that can pick them up? Or what if they can do things that we don't even know they're doing? There are tons of anecdotes of pet owners that swear man's best friend can read their mind. Not to mention this book that says plants can do it. According to biochemist and researcher Rupert Sheldrake, animals can also predict their own deaths. All it takes is a quick glance at how amazing we already know that nature is. The realization that we're discovering new, previously unfathomable things about it every day, and a dose of humbleness to realize that it's an indisputable fact that we know very little about what's really out there and what we're really capable of. And that, quote, we don't know what we don't know. I think this sums it up nicely.
Reports that say that something hasn't happened are always interesting to me, because as we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
We call magnetoreception and infrasound hearing and telepathy extraordinary because we don't have them, or so we think. Maybe the question is, though, how much of reality are we blocked from, or that's filtered out by our own perception? And if you removed that, what are we truly capable of? But what do you think? Have you ever experienced synesthesia or Savant syndrome firsthand? What do you think about the 1980s experiments? And just for fun, if you could pick any animal's superpower for yourself, what would it be? I can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you have an idea for something you'd like to see a full episode on, let me know. A special thank you to Mike Schultz, Mike Murphy, and Andrew Ruiz for helping inspire this video. And of course, if you enjoyed, please take just a second to like and share this video, hit the hype button, it really helps a lot, and if you want to see more, subscribe. Also, it only took me a year, but if you want to keep up to date on all things Codex and catch some behind-the-scenes specials, we now have official Instagram pages on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Check them out if you haven't already, and thank you very much to those that already have. Until next time, stay curious and stay legendary. And real quick, before you go, YouTube thinks you will like this video next, so check it out before you go. Thank you.